Thank you guys for joining us today. My name is Ben. I'm with the Chronicle News. We're sitting down with mayoral candidates today to learn more about why they want to run for mayor in the 2022 coordinated election that's going to be running on November 2nd. First, we have the incumbent Mayor Rico. He's graciously decided to speak with us and just share more about why he decided to run again for mayor. Thank you for sitting down with us.
Thank you, Ben. And I just want to thank the Chronicle News for asking me to do this interview. And it's good to do things like this because the public wants to know, what's past, what's present, what's future. And hopefully we have some time today to discuss that. But just I do know that there are a lot of new people in the community and in the area that probably don't know who I am and where I come from. And just to give you some history, I'm a native, or not a native, but I'm originally from Trinidad and actually the area. I was born and raised in Weston, Colorado. Born and raised there, actually born in our house there in Weston back in 1951. I am married, married my wife Bee in 1971, so we've been married 50 years. We have 2 children, 2 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren.
Oh, wow.
It's been a good marriage. We've had a good marriage, and the community has been very good to me. Provided me with an income, my wife with an income, where we're able to live here and live here comfortably. So we stayed here, and that's the reason why. Like I said, I come from a family. My father was a coal miner. My mom did a lot of domestic work, but they were a good family. Had a very good family life growing up. The reason why I decided to run for mayor in 2015 was there was some instability in the community at the mayor's office, and the other thing is that I felt that there was not a lot of awareness being trying to portrayed up at the state level and our state legislators, and I felt like that was something that was greatly needed. So that was, even though I didn't outwardly express that, that was something that I knew internally that I had to try to confront, which I think that I've been able to do, because prior to 2015, there was a lot of instability at City Hall. So I've been able to do a lot of that, and I've been very happy with the progress that Trinidad has made in the last 6 years. Through all the progress that has been made has been through public and private partnerships, which has been tremendous. That's what you want to do. The municipal government cannot do everything, especially in these days. So you need to try to get money from not only the state, but you also need to try to get money from private partnerships, which we've been able to do with the many projects that we've had over the last 6 years that I've been involved.
What leadership qualities do you bring to this position that you think make you a good leader for this position?
Well, I've been in the community, like I said, all my life. I worked in the building industry for 43 years. I managed that since probably 1985. I was manager for the building materials industry, while the building material here in Trinidad. And at one point, I had 29 employees that I oversaw. Had a lot of, during that time, we had a lot of successes. A lot of building was going on in different aspects, from not only residential, but commercial as well. I've also been involved in the 1970s with many community organizations. And through those, in those organizations, I actually chaired many of them. I chaired it was the Huerfano Los Angeles County Housing Resources in the mid-2000s. I chaired that for about 3 years. Also in 2014, just to let you know, I was asked to participate in the 2014 Rural Philanthropy Days, and I chaired that, and we raised $60,000 for that project. And that's just a few of the things that I've done that I feel like being involved in the community in many organizations. One of the other organizations that I'm still involved with is the Trinidad Community Foundation. And it started in 2006 or 7. I was president for like 4 years in that organization as well. So I believe that I've been able to lead these businesses or these organizations to do some good things. So that's, and like I said, leadership is a lot more than that. Leadership is getting out in your community, reaching out to state legislators. That is what you call leadership. And also not confronting, but going out and meeting the local citizenry and talking to them and asking them questions. What do you want from me? What do you expect? What are your expectations of me? So that's what leadership is all about.
Okay. And then moving into a little more specific policy, it seems like there is some concern with this Proposition 119
Yes.
and our reliance on marijuana funds in this city. And I was curious if you have any intention of trying to work to find other revenue sources where we're not so reliant on marijuana. And so if things do change with that, we wouldn't be so reliant on that.
Well, this is even before this Proposition 119 came around. That was one of the other things that I recognized coming into the mayor's job, is that we needed to diversify our economy locally here. And a couple of things that have happened since then, of course, is the project, for instance, you see across the street, that's Space to Create project, to try to bring more creatives into the community. That is a $19.5 million project. And we're still doing some work on the Commons area. So there's some work to be done there. The big thing is the Fisher's Peak project. That was a $25.45 million project that's now our 42nd state park. And I believe that it will do is, as you know, that New Mexico has also now will start selling marijuana. The big issue there has started out that Colorado has at the Colorado state level, there is a 15% sales tax that is put on besides what we put on. New Mexico is going to have 12%. They're going to raise theirs to, I think, 18% over a period of years. We feel like we could deal with that. But with this Proposition 119, they want to take that 15% that the Colorado state taxes at right now up to 19%. So you can see that there's that's going to be a little more difficult to deal with. So you're asking about how do we compensate the loss of possibly some or a lot of this tax. Fisher's Peak, I think, is going to be a big part of that because 2 years ago, I believe it was, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, Colorado State University students came down, they did a study, and they estimate that we will probably, when Fisher's Peak is completely open, that it will bring in close to right around 50,000 tourists into this area just for Fisher's Peak alone. Estimated revenue around 13 million a year. So that could justify a lot of this revenue that we may lose. The other thing that we're also looking at is we're trying to create Trinidad as the destination point. One other avenue that I think that is going to be big for tourism will be we've engaged with the Greenway Foundation for the River Project. And that is currently underway right now as they're doing a visioning. So that project there, so they will have kind of what I call a trifecta in this area. Well, at some point in time, that'll be the river, that'll be Fisher's Peak, and that'll be Trinidad Lake. So those three things. And then the other thing besides that, of course, of right now, is that we have the mine that has come into the community, close to 300 jobs, and that are only the miners. In talking to the owners, there will be some ancillary businesses that probably will need to support that as well. We don't know how many of those will be. I do remember when the mine was going full bore up there were other ancillary businesses that had to support that business at that time. So that will probably be added to it. So the big problem, of course, and we'll probably have a discussion on that here shortly, is housing. That's a major issue that we're having right now. Yes. But, and there's another prospective item that's going on in the community that maybe some people don't know about. I think it was a little over a year ago. There was a company called Blue Sky. It started to do as I've known for a long time, and the people that have lived here a long time have known, is that there's a helium dome east of town. And it was pretty large. Recently, they got a permit to drill their first well, and I think they got a couple more permits that they're wanting to do here shortly. How many employees they will have there, we don't know. But that will be another employment opportunity to diversify our economy, when you bring all these people in with the mine, with this possibly, trying to attract other businesses into the community, plus Fisher's Peak, I can envision that we will be able to offset and probably maybe even increase that tax base
Okay.
and tax revenue.
And obviously, another big issue is housing and infrastructure. And so, I guess, what is your vision for addressing, our infrastructure issue and our housing issue? Because it seems like they're somewhat related.
You're right. Infrastructure, of course, is a major issue, not only for us here, but as long as I've been mayor, I've talked to people not only across the state, but across the country. We're all in the same boat. This country goes back many, many years. Trinidad goes back 200 years, as we know. And the infrastructure that we've had, we are slowly trying to make, on our yearly budget process, which we're at right now, we put in so much money each year for budgeting and to take care of whether it's streets or water lines, gas lines. And one area that we've not done a lot with right now is our electrical power lines, which is something that we need to have. So those are some things that and our roads. Roads are a major issue. A lot of people say, well, why don't you just go in and pave? Well, you can go in and pave, but it's very costly to pave. So in order to be able to pave, the best thing to do is to go in and dig it up, replace the underground infrastructure, whether it's gas or water or electrical, because you don't want to have to go back in 2 years or 3 years and dig it all up and start all over again, because then you got to repave at a high cost. So you try to do it all at one time when that does come up. So infrastructure is a very costly and time consuming, because internally we don't have all that money. We also try to get grants to help us with those. Housing, let's talk about housing. As coming my background from the housing industry of 43 years, I understand housing completely, commercial as well as residential, because I've worked on both, not going out there and pounding nails, although I built my own house, but through estimating, through plans that I've done for all those years. Housing right now in Trinidad is pretty hard to do. Not that we don't have lots available. The problem is getting builders to build. I've talked to some of the local contractors currently, and they are one of the bigger contractors here in town. He's building custom homes, and he's like 6 or 7 custom homes behind. So it's going to take him probably a couple of years to build these homes. There's a couple of other guys out there that are building individual homes, but they don't want to get into the larger homes. There are some lots with what I call infill in the city that could be built on. Had a meeting last week with some people, and they were out of Pueblo. And he was saying that just a couple of years ago, contractors up there were happy to build the 2 or 3 or 4 homes. Now they don't even want to bother with those. They're buying up entire blocks and building 30, 40, 50 homes at a crack, so they can go from one to the next, all in the same block. So I've seen that the larger contractors that would build the 10 to 15 homes, they don't want to come to Trinidad, because that's what they're doing, greater volume in Pueblo, Colorado Springs, Denver, Amarillo, Albuquerque. So they're very hesitant to come down here, because they're very happy and successful with what they're able to do in their own, without having to come down, because they not only have to deal with the high cost of materials right now, which has come down as far as the lumber side. The steel industry is still high, because I've talked to one of the steel suppliers, and that's what he's told me. The steel is still high. But then you also have the cost of labor. And then bring in their own employees, let's say from Pueblo or other areas, they also have that per diem that they've got to pay. So that labor is really expensive. give you a good example. When we started to work on across the street at the Space Crate project, that project was a $19 million project, and I started looking at the pro forma that they gave us. And I was looking at the list, and I saw a discrepancy, and I couldn't quite understand where they were coming from. Let's take, for instance, sheetrock. On one sheet because we have two projects. We have the one on Elm Street, and we have one across the street. Well, one of the projects, I can't remember which one exactly was, it was like $12 or $13 per square foot. The other project was $4 per square foot. So, that stood out to me, being from that industry. It was a red flag to me. So I asked them, why is this? What they did is I think it was that project down on Elm Street, because that was a bigger project. The reason for it was that's where they threw the per diem into. And that per diem was close to $1 million, because they had to bring a lot of their contractors out of Louisiana, because we could not find a general contractor within a 200-mile radius of this area. So as you can see, the housing is very difficult to deal with right now. People ask about Cougar Canyon. Why can't you guys do something with Cougar Canyon? That is a nightmare. And the reason is there are so many companies or LLCs or whatever you want to call them down there. So far, the city, a couple of years ago, we invested with attorney fees, I think still close to $30,000 to $40,000. In order for us to unravel that entire project, it would probably cost maybe another $100,000 to $200,000. And then we don't have a guarantee that a contractor will come in and say, you clear it up, we'll build. So we need, what we would like to see is someone to say, okay, we will build if you will clear it up, but we need a guarantee of some sort. So that's the problem that we have. So right now, what we would look at is smaller projects here in town, the infill projects, someone that may want to build, the 5 or the 10 homes. There are some places here in town. I've talked to a couple of people who are planning on doing that right now. I've never been on Facebook, but through this mayor's thing this year, I decided to do Facebook. I got a Facebook question, and they said, well, what is the mayor's job doing? Because I understand that there's going to be somebody coming and building over 127 homes. And I said, first of all, I don't know of anybody that's approached us for that. So there's a lot of speculation out there. So it's best to ask the question, and I'll answer, properly.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to add that we haven't asked about that you think people should know about you or your vision or your history?
Well, my vision is this right now. One of the things, like I said, I want to continue on with this Greenway Foundation and the River Visioning Project to try to enhance that. One of the things that I have done is that, like I said, I continue to go to Denver whenever I can, although since last year, I've not been able to do that so much. Prior to that, I was going up to Denver once to twice a month. I've been involved with several different organizations, the Colorado Municipal League up there, and there was an Action 22, which is, as you've heard of, this weekend. And sometime this last winter, we had an Action 22 meeting in Pueblo, and there was a gentleman by the name of Antonio Martinez, and he is the governor's guru, I guess, on broadband. And he talked about broadband, and then I started thinking, well, as we all have traveled up Highway 25, I-25, there's line that's being laid in there. So I asked him, what's that line all about? And he says, that's new broadband going from the north all the way up to the state line. And I asked him, I said, is there a possibility that maybe at some point that we could tie into that project? And he said, I'll talk to you about it. So when I came back, I told Mike, we need to look at this. So what we did is we set up a meeting with him, and it boils down that actually tomorrow, there was a gentleman by the name of Bob Pfeiffer that actually is the next person that knows more about it. We are meeting with him to see what that possibility is. And how we would pay for that, of course, is there is the American Rescue Plans money that's out there. The city's supposed to get, I think, close to a little over $2 million from that. So what would happen, from my understanding, this is kind of what I understand, is that we would be able to tie in, but then what would happen is that the city would have to kind of do what you call, I understand, so the loop around Trinidad, and then somehow begin to tie in the residential areas and also the commercial areas for high-speed broadband. And I believe that we could take some of that money that we're getting from the ARPA funds and putting it toward building this additional infrastructure. What'll happen there then is that we will be able to offer that, from my understanding, at a lot less cost. Like right now, I pay like $85 a month just for my internet. From my understanding, it'll probably be maybe a third of that cost. So a business, I'm not sure what a business, whatever a business pays for it, it's pretty costly. So that cost will come down. So it'll benefit, the individual as well as the businesses. So that's something that that hopefully that we can, get out of this. Continue. We will also. I want to try to continue to reach out at the state level with the state legislators and our federal legislators to see what we can bring down into this area, because that's how things happen. Prior to my mayorship, that was not happening. We were not going to Denver and saying, these are Trinidad's needs. How can you help us? By doing that, I've been able to go up and meet with these state legislators and our federal legislators, which you do mostly through their representatives, expressing our needs. And I think that has been a big benefit because I've been told by some of these people at the state level, some of the philanthropy groups, and even some of the state legislators I've said, Trinidad is up and coming. We recognize the need, and there's money, and we want to help you. So I believe that the relationships that I have established in the last 6 years will prove really beneficial in the next 2 years.
By continuing that.
So we need to continue that progress. So like I said, if someone new comes in, you've got to reestablish all those relationships. It's just like you. When I first met you, you didn't know who I was. But now that I've met you, you know a little bit more about me. Probably feel more comfortable with who I am. Am I honest? Am I an honest person? Those are the type of things that I think that you have to reestablish, especially with state legislators, because they're very skeptical. They feel like you want to go up there first of all with a handout. So you need to establish that personal relationship with them. I had established a real good personal relationship with the previous Speaker of the House, and she was able to do some stuff for us here in Trinidad. I don't know the current Speaker of the House, but I do know the Senate President, and in some ways, kind of become friends with him. The dollar representative, the director, he's actually, I found out that he originally has some ties here in Trinidad. So when you meet these people, you inquire, and pretty soon you start making these connections, and those connections can be very fruitful in the end.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. Thank you.
Thank you for asking me, and like I said, if there's anything else that you want to know about, I do know that there's a lot of issues out there that we still have to confront. We have our ADA issues, but that is something that we work on every year. We put so much money into ADA every year. So it's a work in progress, and it takes not only a mayor's job, council's job, but it also takes a team, and our team is City Hall employees. This city has a really good group of people that work at City Hall working for you and the citizens of this community. They're dedicated, they work hard, they do a really, really good job, and I'm proud to be part of that team.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.